okay, like I want to have this conversation because we've both been the one that like has sort of deprioritized ourselves and our health. So like, what are we going to do when we notice this in one another? Like, how do you want me to say this to you? And
When it comes to health, when it comes to weight or exercise, no matter where you are in your relationship, that can still be a really hard conversation to have.
Mhm.
Living a full and well life
Pieces to put together,
grow authentic,
we feel it.
take care of ourselves.
Hello and welcome back to the Wishing You Well podcast, where we help you navigate your wellness journey each and every week. I'm Amy Albero.
And I'm Catherine Van Eyck. We're both licensed therapists, and we have a part 2 to our Q&A, post-technical problem Q&A. This is question number 2 that we will get to
Yes.
today.
Yes. Hopefully, fingers crossed, no tech issues or internet issues today. I'm like knocking on all the wood.
And also, if you like the mini version of
Yeah.
that kind of episode, then let us know, because normally we can be kind of long-winded and we can get into talking. So let us know if you like the bite-sized
Yeah.
episodes.
The mini-sode. Yeah. Yeah. So as a reminder, you can send your questions to us at wishingyouwell@revivecfw.com, and we'll make sure to put that in our show notes. But yes, we have one more question to talk about for this round of therapist Q&A. But before we do, we of course need to check in with one another and check in about self-care. So what's going on, Catherine? How are you? How's your self-care?
I feel very stressed today, but you know that. So something on my self-care menu that's really helping with that is shout out to Roy's Cook, and our episode with her about journaling. I ended up reaching out to my friends and told them that it would be a great idea if we started this whole rose and thorn and bud check-in with each other. And it kind of feels like our self-care check-in, where it's like, okay, let me actually reflect on my life right now in this exact
Mm.
moment. And my friends were really positively responsive to it, and they got right into it, and we all shared our rosebuds and thorns last week. And now I'm just kind of making it a Friday thing. Oh, we're recording on a Friday. And so I sent them my rosebud and thorn this morning. I was the first one. And yeah, it's just kind of like this nice release, but also this great way that I already feel more connected to them than I have
Mm.
recently, which has been really sweet.
Oh, I love that so much. I immediately after our episode with Royce, I like added a rosebud and thorn journal to my cart, and it came like the next day. So I've been doing that method of journaling this week because I had to start on a Monday,
Of course.
and and I love it. At first, I was like the first day or two, it like took me like a minute to figure out like how I wanted to actually like use the boxes and like really reflect. But by last night, which was Thursday, so 4 days in, I felt like I was like really trying to think about what Royce talked about in like just being honest with herself, and that really stuck with me. And so I really have been trying to use it as a place from really honest, and I've enjoyed it so much. So definitely we fully endorse the rosebud thorn method from Well Girl and Royce Cook. But I'm glad to hear that you're doing that with your friends. I haven't done that yet, and I think I might want to.
Yeah, give it a shot. I mean, since you're doing the Royce Cook way, you have
Yeah.
to be collaborative about it. So
Yes, exactly. Right. To be fully into it. Yes, it has to be collaborative.
exactly.
Um, cool.
Thank you. Well, how about you? How are you? How is your self-care?
I'm also pretty like stressed this week. I'm like just coming off of like a quite frustrating meeting. So I'm like, sitting with my feelings in that. But my like frustration level has been just a little notably higher this week. And I don't know if it's just I feel some burnout approaching or what, but one thing that I was really mindful of this week was trying to be aware of what I absolutely had to do this week and what things I could say no to or ask someone else to do. And so I ended up stepping out of a lot of meetings this week that I didn't necessarily need to be in. And it wasn't that I used that space to like get caught up on other work. I used it like purely for myself. And so that was a huge like self-care step for me is like realizing that I have such a great team, or not even realizing, I know that already, remembering that I have a really great team, and they do a great job, and I don't need to be at everything in order for the wheels to keep on on turning. And so that was my big self-care this week.
I know that that's not easy for you.
Mhm. Yeah. No,
So
it's not. And I was like so apologetic when I reached out for the first time, and both people were like, Amy, like, I'm so happy that you're asking this. Like, of course it's fine. Like, this is great. Take whatever time you need. I'm so happy that you're taking this hour back or this hour and a half back. And that just makes me feel good about like just the team that we have, that like it feels very supportive in that way. So it made the guilt feel less.
that's really good. I mean, it's nice to have that support, even though like if you didn't have it, you weren't wrong. It's
Mhm.
still taking that time for yourself.
Yeah,
But it's nice to have
exactly.
that kind of like
Reassurance.
approval almost.
Yes. Yes. So
Good.
yeah, that's my main self-care.
Well, stressed or not stressed, we need it.
It's true. It's true.
That's what's going on for us now.
Mhm.
But we've talked about a lot of different self-care recently. I mean, pretty much every week we talk about different self-care, and some of those things are ongoing. Some of them are once in a blue moon type self-care, but some of them we can check back in with each other about. And I'm curious about your self-care. What's going on with some of those things?
Mhm.
Like you mentioned your dietitian last episode. Any
Yes.
updates there?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying working with this dietitian. I feel like I think I was sharing, like, I'm reaching out like in between our check-ins for any questions. I have had this feel, actually, I can't believe that I didn't share this because I feel like so much of our 2023 self-care check-in was I feel like shit. I felt amazing, particularly this last week. Like my energy
Ooh,
level is so high, despite my like, frustration. My mood is like high and positive. I feel like I recognize my body, like in not only how it looks, but like how I feel in it for the first time in a really long time. So it's going really well. I'm feeling really good. So that's a huge self-care update. So thank you for checking in.
whoa,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Mhm.
So what things do you have to keep up in order to make sure that you still feel like that?
Yeah, I think definitely prioritizing sleep. I know that that was something that we had talked about a few weeks back when Michelle Schwartz was on. And so sleep, like really making that happen. And I think I've just been much more attentive to how I'm feeling my body, especially I started Orange Theory about 6 weeks ago, and it's a more intense workout and a longer workout than I was doing. So I've had to like eat in a different way to make sure that I'm like replenishing my body or helping my body be ready for an intense workout. And so I've just been mindful of that. So I need to keep doing that if I want to keep feeling really good in my workouts as well.
Good.
Yeah.
That's the good work.
Yes, thanks. How about you? I was doing my skincare last night and I was
Mhm.
thinking about your skin journey. And so I was wondering about that and all the other, I mean, we talked about sleep, we talked about ordering groceries, like all the things. So what about you in these last few weeks?
I will definitely give you an update on the skincare situation. So I'm still oiling my face up.
Yes.
And honestly, you know what made me feel much better about doing that is the fact that you said you love a dewy look. I just starting to embrace the dewiness. And um I've like really kind of liked it. The only thing that I am kind of like teetering on like, do I keep this up? Do I switch things up? Is the fact that like it's not gonna be winter forever. And like,
Mm,
will the oil be something that I actually want dripping off of my face when I start to be all sweaty in the summer? So I was thinking, well, okay, maybe this was just a fluke, and maybe it was windburn, or like
mm,
maybe it was like a sunburn because my skin can apparently be like much more sensitive now postpartum. So like I'll try to use my moisturizer that I was using, and I will say that the moisturizer I was using, and I was using it for a while, and it was fine, is already very like minimal ingredient, like
mm,
clean, like like clean at Sephora or clean at Ulta, whatever it is. Like I'm very, very much into clean beauty products.
mhm,
So I was really surprised when I was like, let me try this again. And I reapplied it and boom, immediate irritation, redness, splotchiness all over. So I was like, what the fuck? I can't use this freaking like
expensive.
really
Yeah.
expensive product. And now it's a waste. And I don't know, I got to give it to someone that can use it or something because I'm back to the oil, back to the oil. And now my
Wow.
face is not red. It is, I went over to look at the mirror. Um, it feels good. It like feels fresh. So I don't know what my summer solution is, but this is my now solution. And I
Good.
have continued it and it is fine.
Great. Good. I'm glad you have a now solution.
Yeah. But thanks for thinking of my skincare.
Yeah. As I was oiling up my face, I was like, yeah, I wonder if Catherine's out there doing the same thing.
I have a friend who had like a similar situation where an allergic reaction all of a sudden happened and then she was like allergic to all these products. So I'm going to ask her what she uses and like how she manages this.
Yeah.
I know I'm not alone.
No, you're not. I would love to have a skin person, a dermatologist or
An esthetician or something.
an esthetician. Yeah. On the pod.
Yeah. Ooh, good idea. Yeah. You have actually been saying that, like talking about like clean beauty. And if you're out there, if you're listening, we want you.
Yeah. Or if you know somebody, send them
Yes.
our way. Okay. Well, let's maybe do a monthly self-care update.
Good idea.
As part of our check-in. We're always evolving here at Revive. We try. We're always trying to get better at this whole wellness idea.
Yeah.
I just want to take a quick pause to tell you that Revive is hiring. In our Miami and Pittsburgh offices, we have full and part-time W-2 and 1099 clinician positions available, and this includes both postgraduate and associate level licenses, in addition to fully licensed clinicians. In our Connecticut offices, we have full-time, fully licensed W-2 clinician positions available, including clinical supervisor opportunities. If you are interested in working for a company that values community, work-life balance, and your personal and professional growth, then we want to meet you. Find a link to our website in our bio.
Okay, so let's get into our question for today. I can read it if you want.
Go ahead.
Okay. So one more time, if you'd like to send a question to us to answer, you can send it to wishingyouwell@revivecfw.com. This listener is asking, my partner doesn't seem to care about his health. I've tried showing him what it's like for me to eat well and exercise, and I've encouraged him to, but he just won't make any lifestyle changes. It's really important to me, and I'm worried about his health long term. What do I do? Relatable.
Yeah. Do you want to share why it's relatable?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
why is it relatable to you?
So like within my relationship, I'm definitely the one of us that like I love exercise. Like I love fitness. Like I genuinely like enjoy eating healthy, or like I love finding like good swaps for like comfort food, or like I just like find nutritious food to be comforting in a sense. Whereas, you know, my husband is like, not that he doesn't care about it as much as I do, but like he definitely prioritizes ease over nutrition. And so like so that I think can impact his health. It's just not a priority to him in the way that it is to me. It's not that he doesn't care about it at all, but he doesn't care about it as much as I think would be meaningful to him, especially as he ages and whatnot. And through our relationship, I actually started out as the unhealthy one. And he and I had a kind of conversation about that right up front. And so sometimes I've struggled with throughout our relationship, like I can see that he's not moving his body as much and it's impacting him. Like his body is sore or just uncomfortable, or he's feeling more self-conscious about the way that his body looks because of some of the choices that he's making. And I've struggled with like, oh gosh, like I feel like I want to notice for him when he might make certain choices that are impacting the way that he is like feeling and looking and feeling about himself. But I don't want to necessarily be a nag or like be so critical because it's such a sensitive topic. But I am remembering when he and I started dating, I was the unhealthy one in our relationship. And this was early on. And he had said to me, like, hey, like, I noticed that you do some things that are like not very healthy. And like, if you want to continue to do that, that's cool with me. But like, for me, being healthy is like so important, not only for me, but like for my future partner, because I want to live a long and happy life together. And so it's important to me that I'm healthy and my future partner is healthy. And I'm concerned that like if we remain together and you remain in these like unhealthy behaviors, that like we won't be able to live like a long, healthy and happy life together. And that's a big concern to me. And I immediately shifted. Like I knew that I cared about him and I knew that I could see a future with him. And so like immediately dropped like some habits that were not healthy. And so I try to think about that too now from this angle of like trying to use that same approach with him, is like I see how much you're like being hard on yourself. Like I see how like crappy you feel physically and emotionally after you grab McDonald's, like on a whim. And like it's impacting your health and I'm worried about that. And like I use his words against him in a way. Like I want us to continue to have like this great life that we do and live long and happy and healthy together. And the way that you're moving through your life right now is going to impact that. That was a monologue. Sorry.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. And I hope that I'm sure that this listener, definitely feels like validated in the fact that you're currently, going through this too, in a way. Two things that you hit on that I want to come back to, because I'm wondering, this was kind of a couple of questions that I had for this listener. One is this something that has always been going on, or is this something that has evolved over time? Obviously for you, it's something that's evolved over time, and it actually like even switched. You've switched roles in the like, healthy one versus not healthy one. So I'm wondering if for this person, if that was something that they had originally talked about, like you and your husband did, or is this something that like maybe for the listener grew to be important over time? Like, did this become a priority for you and it just didn't become a priority for them? Or did they lose that as a priority along the way? And kind of going off of that, with as far as priorities go, is this just a priority or is this a value? Now, you and I had an entire episode on values, and health is one of those values for you and me. So is this a value for you and your values are not matching up with your partner, your spouse, whoever this person is to you? Is it more than just you're not prioritizing this? And is it more of why aren't our values lining up anymore? Or current?
I love those questions. And because I think the answers to those really do make a difference, because if it is something that has kind of shifted over time, then it allows you to be a little bit more curious about like, okay, what else might be going on here? And I know for my husband, like his life drastically changed in terms of what he was doing for his career. And he was going to school like in the evening to get his master's degree. And Revive started. So like so many changes like all at once. And he just went on the back burner. And so it wasn't even that he didn't prioritize his health. He just didn't prioritize himself. And so now that time and life has shifted a bit, and this is now 7 years later, he's creating more space for that. And so that would also be something that I think about for this listener, as you just said, is like, yeah, is this a light switch moment where like it was on and now it's off, or has this always been there maybe, or has this become more of a value for you? It's interesting though. I don't know if you're watching this season of Love is Blind.
I just started it. I haven't actually like maybe like episode 2 I'm on.
Okay. Well,
but go ahead, you can spoil.
I won't totally, so just in case our listeners haven't watched, but there's one couple who with the guy in the couple, he has definitely prioritized looks from even in the pods, and saying like, I need to know what my significant other is going to look like I would need to know like before I propose to them. Like that's really important to me. Fast forward, he ends up getting engaged to someone, and they're having a conversation around like, because he was basically saying like, you look like really good, and she was like, yeah, I work really hard, and I'm worried about like when I get pregnant and like my body changes, what's going to happen. And so they were having this whole dialogue about like, well, I'm going to tell you to go to the gym. And but they did have a good conversation around like, what would it sound like, and what would it be like if you started to notice that like my habits were changing, or that like that my like body was changing or that I was becoming uncomfortable and not necessarily doing anything about that. And I thought that was such a great conversation to have. And then I brought that to my marriage and said like to Chris and said like, okay, like I want to have this conversation because we've both been the one that like has sort of deprioritized ourselves and our health. So like, what are we going to do when we notice this in one another? Like, how do you want me to say this to you? And like, this is what I really want and need you to do for me. And that was also something that I loved seeing on TV, and again, brought it into our relationship of like, this is what I would need from you, in order to like feel supported here.
Gotta love when you can learn from reality TV, right?
Love it.
I know how I love that. It's really tricky because you're in a very long-term relationship.
Mhm.
You've talked about it on this podcast. I mean, we just had a full episode on love. I've talked about my marriage, my long-term
Mhm.
relationship. It's so interesting that no matter how the length of the relationship or how quote unquote healthy the relationship could be, that there can still be really difficult conversations.
Mhm.
And when it comes to health, when it comes to weight or exercise, no matter where you are in your relationship, that can still be a really hard conversation to have.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that that's a really good example of the fact that like, okay, I don't know everything about your marriage, but I know that like you have a very strong relationship. And the fact that you're still trying to figure out a helpful way to navigate that conversation among others
Mhm.
just goes to show that like just because you have a strong relationship doesn't mean that every conversation is going to be easy.
Mhm.
And so obviously we don't know anything about this particular listener's relationship, but another validating point, this is not an easy conversation to have.
Mm.
Another thing that you mentioned when you first started talking about your relationship is the type of care that that you have for fitness and
Mhm.
exercise, that you're noticing that your husband's looks different. I'm wondering for this listener too, is it that your partner doesn't care about their health at all, or does their version of caring just look different than yours? And if
Mhm.
it looks different than yours, then is that okay? Is it okay that you just have this a different idea of what health looks like? Or is
Yeah.
there objectively like, no, you're not healthy and and I am, or I'm working on it,
Yeah.
and that's not okay.
Right.
So like what version or like what spectrum of like healthy are we looking at?
Right. Well, and is this listener just being very polite and PC and not saying the elephant in the room and saying like my significant other's body size has changed and I'm not attracted to them anymore? Like,
Mm.
or I'm not as attracted to them, or this is affecting my attractiveness to them. And so like that's a hard thing to say, admit, to write in about. And so I don't know if this listener, like if that's an element of this listener, like is it yes about health, but also about like aesthetics. And
Mhm.
so I would really ask the listener to be honest with themselves about that, because that's a whole different like set of questions.
Or is this listener used to worrying about other people?
Mm.
Is this the role that they kind of play in their life where they worry about their significant other, their family, their kids, their etc. And is it that this person's just so used to worrying about other people, caring for other people, and they're not comfortable with the fact that they can't actually change what's going on? And or could it be that there are other worries to be had here? Like
Mm.
if there's other things going on in the relationship that you aren't necessarily paying attention to, and this actually just feels like the most tangible thing that you can pay attention to,
Mm.
um, and the most, like, obvious thing because it's kind of, like, right in front of your face, or are there other things that are going on that you're not addressing that you also don't know how to address?
Like a
Like, sometimes
scapegoat issue kind of thing.
yes, yeah, yeah, or, like, it's kind of like a yeah, it's like a disguise, exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's a really, really good insight. Yeah. And but I do think because you're saying like what role does this issue play in the relationship? What role do you play in this relationship? I think those are really good things for this listener to be thinking about. And I do think though, like going back to your initial point, trying to see if this is a values misalignment is going to be foundational here to figure out like a path forward. And I also don't know how important this is to this person. Like, is this just something that you like? Can it go unresolved? Like, can you tolerate that? Can you tolerate that the person that you're with doesn't do things like you do, or doesn't care about the same things that you do? Do you have a relationship without being on the same page about this?
Mm.
And like, and if you're someone that similar to me, like I have a sense of like there's a right way to do things. And I've had to work a lot on letting that go. And that just because my husband does things differently or differently than I would for him on his behalf doesn't mean it's bad or it's wrong. And so like also trying to let that go.
Mhm. There's so many ways that this could there are so many things that this could actually mean about
Mhm.
this person or about this relationship. That it really this is this is one of those it depends situations.
I
Like
know.
the answer to what do I do really just depends on everything that we mentioned and more.
Yeah.
I think one thing even going back to the worry part, like if you're not so much your role is the worrier, but if you are worrying, but that worrying is sort of also kind of like you said before, like a scapegoat for this greater worry. Like if you're actually worried about your partner's well-being, is it about their well-being or is it about other family members' well-being that you've
Mhm.
lost and that you didn't have a hand in, how they took care of themselves, how they lived? And so you really want to kind of make up for that,
Mhm.
or you are almost like grieving the loss of those people through trying to take care of
Yeah.
your partner.
Yes. Ugh, another really good insight. And so I know that with these like therapist Q&As, we often have very little A's and we end up with a lot more Q's. But like
We're Q and Q's.
but it is like I think it goes to show like so much of what we like struggle with as individuals is so nuanced and so unique and just so much more complex than what is on the surface. And so I don't know that we didn't give you an answer, listener. I'm sorry about that, but hopefully we gave you some things to reflect on. But if you do some reflecting and you feel like you have a better sense of what maybe a deeper issue is or what like kinds of solutions might exist, like feel free to write back to us or give us an update. We'd love to hear it. So I guess that wraps us up on this mini episode, this bite-sized episode of Therapist Q&A. We love hearing from you. Thank you for submitting your questions. I guess I'll say it one more time for good luck. You can send your questions to us at wishingyouwell@revivecfw.com. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, you can always check out our other podcast, Reactivity TV, where me and my not as health prioritizing husband talk about reality TV, most specifically The Bachelor franchise. So you can check that out on our YouTube channel. You can also follow along with us at Revive CFW on Instagram. You can follow Catherine at Catherine Van Eyck, me at Amy Albero, LCSW, and check out our website, revivecfw.com. Until next time, we are wishing you well.